I'm going to explain to you what's been happening in England during the last days. You've been seeing these scenes of hooligans, of rioters out on the streets. And the only word I can use to describe these are, pogroms. That's the only word I can think of. These are pogroms, okay? You have people coming out and trying to burn down mosques or throwing bricks and bottles at mosques, lynching or trying to lynch at least, a black person who's walking down the street, and you have a mob of like 20 white people attacking them, or attacking an Asian person or a Muslim person or an Arab person. I've seen this over and over and over and over again, and it's unbelievable.
Get him out of here!
My God, it's wrong. Fucking hell.
Yeah, so that stand, by the way, they essentially attacked a stall offering Qurans. Okay, so I mean, it's an obvious hate crime.
Yeah! Go on, you fucking...
Just, the scum of the earth. These people are the scum of the earth. And then they were also trying to traffic, basically, to act as traffic wardens based on the color of the person driving the car. So they're literally standing there and saying, if you're white, you can pass. And if you're not white, you can't pass. They've gone and attacked graves of Muslims. They've put paint on the graves. They've vandalized them, essentially. They've gone and tried to burn down a hotel where migrants, or rather, Christ, it's starting to rub off. Their nonsense starting to rub off. Where they're attacking asylum seekers, which they call migrants for some reason. They're too thick to understand the difference between a refugee and someone who is an immigrant. But okay, what can you expect from such people? They literally tried to burn it down. And look at this mob standing outside. I mean, this is unequivocally attempted murder. It's attempted murder. All of these people are looking at life sentences. I'm not joking.
Oh shit, man, they're in. They're in. Oh wow.
Where are you bastards?
They're in. Fucking hell. They are. They're going upstairs at last. Get out! Get out!
They're in.
Oh shit, man, they're in. They're in. Oh wow.
It's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Here, look at the aftermath. Look at the damage that they've caused. So what they've done basically is they have a list of hotels where people who are making refugee applications, who are seeking asylum, right, are housed temporarily, because they've fled war. They don't have resources, do they? And they've gone and tried to burn them down. Okay. And you have to ask yourself, where is the police? You have to ask yourself, what is the police doing during all of this, right? I think that's an interesting question to ask, because where we have seen the police, they've basically been attacking them. Okay, they say that immigrants don't respect the law, but it's actually the far right that don't respect the law. They vandalize, they loot, they rob, they attack, they mob, they bully, they destroy, they even unleash violence on the authorities. It's really amazing hypocrisy.
Go on! Bikes and everything, boys! Get on! Go on, win the screen smash! Yes! Like and share the live. Drop a follow, boys. Go on, boys.
I mean, it's chaos. I mean, I can sit here all night and show you these videos. It's chaos. You get the idea. And all of this started, why did this begin? Well, it didn't begin just yesterday, but nevertheless, the catalyst, if you will, is there were 3 girls that were stabbed in Southport, and they started saying that a Muslim immigrant had done it. And it turns out it's a UK national, so it's someone who's born in the UK, in Wales actually, who is Christian and has Rwandan parents. But they said that they're a Muslim immigrant. And usually the police would not release the identity of the assailant, but they did in this case just to show what morons how moronic these rumors are and how moronic the people spreading them are. Okay, so they said a Muslim immigrant did it, but it was a Rwandan who is Christian and born in Wales. I mean, quite different profiles, yes? So it's amazing watching the BBC also. Look at how they describe this stuff. It's really unbelievable. So they call it unrest. Unrest. Not pogroms. Unrest. So, attacking mosques, trying to burn refugees alive. I mean, I showed you the video. You know how dangerous that is, right? I don't have to explain that burning down a hotel is attempted murder. There are people inside a hotel, usually. Yes? I've never heard of an empty hotel. So they know there are asylum seekers in there. They have these locations. And so they say that a car burns after being overturned during an anti-immigration protest. Well, I mean, when you're burning a car, is anti-immigration protest really the right term? I don't know. Or unrest, at least. Unrest sounds really mild. What does unrest mean? A bunch of cows mooing? There's unrest amongst the herd? What does that mean? I showed you the videos. It's just a small section. It doesn't look like unrest to me. It looks like a lot more than that. And then they say, for example, they witnessed demonstrators carrying a banner referring to the Southport knife attacks. Again, that's done by a Christian born in Wales. Before throwing cans and bottles at police officers and shops with the shutters down. So this is very clearly hooliganism and violence, but they call it demonstrators. How do you differentiate them between someone, for example, chaining themselves to a lamppost or holding a sign and someone who throws bottles and bricks at the police? Don't you think demonstrator loses its meaning when you do that? And then also underneath, they say cars and homes and side streets around the town center have been targeted, windows smashed, wheelie bins have been set alight. I mean, it's what they're describing doesn't match the terms they're using. Okay, they're basically trying to whitewash the far right protests, if we can again call them protests. They're more like pogroms, to make them seem like it's just a bunch of people who are just peacefully protesting. Well, obviously they're not. You can see here how someone on the BBC was talking about it on TV.
And for around half an hour, it was quite peaceful. There was a small counter-protest, and for around half an hour, it was quite peaceful. There was a small counter-protest, the pro-British march on one side of the town hall here, and the counter-protest on the other side of the town hall. It was around o'clock.
The pro-British march. Okay, whatever that means. So let me explain to you who's behind this. All right. Because you have to understand that this is not an isolated incident. This didn't just happen, by coincidence. One of the chief instigators of these riots is someone called, who now calls himself Tommy Robinson. Okay, that's not his real name. That's not his real name. So this guy has about 5 different names. I'm not joking. You go on Wikipedia, he's got like 5-6 different names. We think his real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. Okay, so this guy calls himself, a massive English patriot, but ironically, his stepfather is Scottish and his mother is Irish. So when you have someone like that calling other people less English and changing his name to something more English, from Yaxley Lennon to Robinson, it sounds a bit hypocritical, doesn't it? And you can see him here wearing a T-shirt with the Israeli Defense Forces, and he's gone to occupy Palestine illegally and taken photos on top of Israeli tanks. And we know for a fact that his benefactors, his patrons, are Israelis, right? His legal fees have been paid by Israelis, by Zionists, and the English Defense League, which doesn't exist anymore, but he used to be associated with it, is closely related to the Jewish Defense League, which is a Zionist organization. So, you know, he is openly taking photographs, posing with a genocidal army. Not now, but, you know, when has it not been genocidal? And again, this guy calls himself an English patriot, supposedly, right? And he puts on a t-shirt of the IDF when the Israelis are responsible for the deadliest terrorist attack against British subjects in history. How can you be an English patriot and then you celebrate an army that has killed more British subjects in a terrorist attack than anyone in history? What kind of a patriot are you? So he goes on Israeli TV. He goes on Israeli television. Okay, this is in the last 2 days, and he admits that all of these riots, these pogroms, are related to October 7th, basically admitting that, well, you know, he doesn't like that people are protesting against genocide. So we know that he is paid by Israel, or at least his benefactors are Israelis. Okay, he's posing in IDF merchandise alongside the IDF on occupied soil in Palestine, and then advancing an Israeli agenda, which is Islamophobia, which is anti-Arab racism. Because you have to understand, the Israelis, they need anti-Arab racism, they need Islamophobia in the UK, in the West, so they can keep saying, oh my God, we are surrounded by terrorists, we need your money and your guns, please. They need that. Okay, so listen to him on Israeli TV, all right?
Right now, we have had jihad attacks every year for 15 years.
A jihad attack. What is a jihad attack? What is that? What is that?
What we've seen since October the 7th is the takeover of our capital city every single week by pro-Hamas, pro-jihadi groups who are encouraging hatred on our streets. And the problem's been...
I mean, just take the text that he's saying, what's coming out of his mouth. Remove the name, remove the accent that he's putting on, and you can... It sounds indistinguishable from an Israeli. Absolutely, utterly indistinguishable. Indistinguishable. Right? Just throw the words in there, the magic words, jihadi, Islamic, Islamist, Muslimanic, all the key words, the buzzwords, right? Which don't really mean anything.
They're unchallenged by the police.
The people have taken part.
They're unchallenged by the police, really. Is that why European police forces are banning anyone who opens their mouths and arresting even Jews, right, who say they're against genocide all across Europe? Is that why they've prescribed Hamas as a supposed terrorist organization? Really, they're doing nothing. Really, you see, like a Zionist, he self-victimizes. He makes up some fantasy that doesn't exist in reality, and despite all the evidence, makes it out to be, oh yeah, we are the victims.
In a far-right protest in central London this afternoon, led by activist Tommy Robinson.
הרשויות בבריטניה מאשימות את האיש הזה שהצית את הכל, פעיל הימין טומי רובינסון, מייסד תנועת הימין נגד מהגרים בשם הליגה להגנת אנגליה. משרד הפנים הבריטי אפילו קורא להגדיר את ה-EDL כארגון טרור. רובינסון מגיב בראיון בלעדי לצינור.
They're trying to put the blame for this at my door. When the locals took to the streets in anger...
Well, no one is trying to put the blame on his door. He's literally been inciting this stuff for the last couple of days. Okay, so to come here and pretend like he has nothing to do with it, I mean, this is hilarious. So I'm going to tell you what a hypocrite this guy is. He claims he's an English patriot and then wears an IDF t-shirt and changes his name because it sounds Irish and he wants it to sound English. He complains about immigrants, and then he himself is an immigrant in Spain. He doesn't even live in England. He is an immigrant who lives in Spain. He complains about illegals and is convicted of, this guy is convicted of having entered the United States illegally on a fake passport. He went to prison for that. Again, let me repeat that. Tommy Robinson, Yaxley Lennon, whatever his name is, Paul Harris, I don't know, he has 5-6 different names, was convicted of entering the United States illegally on a fake passport. And then he turns around and complains about quote unquote illegals in the UK. What he means are asylum seekers, which is the most legal thing under international law. Every single human being on the planet has a human right to apply for asylum. That's a fact. You can dislike it, but it's a fact. It's not illegal. It's utterly, completely, unequivocally legal. Okay? Unlike Tommy Robinson's, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, Paul Harris's behavior. All right? And then he talks about, oh, we have to leave the European Union. We have to have Brexit. And then he goes and lives in the European Union. Is there anything this guy does that is not hypocritical? He is a walking hypocrite. He's the epitome, of a hypocrite. It's truly unbelievable, right? And then he and his ilk talk about refugees who are victims of British foreign policy, victims of Western imperialism. They call them invaders. And then he goes and poses with invaders, with the Israeli army, who are illegally occupying 3 countries. Invaders in every sense of the word. I mean, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. It's stinking. It's so Israeli. It's that exact projection that we keep talking about, that Israeli projection, the Zionist projection. He embodies it, right? It's amazing. It really is. What could he be but a Zionist, right? What could he be except a Zionist? So this is from David Miller, who's done also excellent work. And he says here, is Tommy Robinson, in quotation marks, a Zionist asset? Liberal Russophobes are uncomfortable with the idea that he is a Zionist asset, partly because of their own Judeophilia. So how do they explain that his legal fees have been paid by the Middle East Forum, a US-based think tank, which is in reality a cutout for the Mossad? Or the many other Zionist tributaries to his financial support. They are also well known, and they have been reported on in The Guardian. And then David Miller also goes on to talk about how the state of Israel is burning down the UK, right? So he basically he quotes the clip I just played to you, okay? And then here also he talks about the strategy here. So why is this happening? Number one, these pogroms are happening in the UK right now to punish the average British citizen, especially minorities, for protesting against genocide, right? You want to come out, Tommy Robinson is essentially saying that. You want to come out every week and say you don't like genocide? Okay, we're going to come burn down the mosque. We're going to beat you up in the street because you're a shade darker than I am. By the way, I think he opened a tanning salon, which is very funny for someone who doesn't like brown people. I mean, the hypocrisy on this guy is so funny. There's not a thing in his life that isn't a hypocrisy. It's unbelievable. You couldn't make this stuff up, I swear. And then the second part of the strategy here is punish the Labour government over its empty posturing over banning arms sales to the state of Israel. So what does that mean? Recently, the British government said they're going to challenge the ICC's jurisdiction, right? So they can basically oppose the application for an arrest warrant against Netanyahu. That's the idea, right? Stall the ICC. Come up with some reason so we don't have to arrest Netanyahu if he comes to the UK. And the Labour government now under Keir Starmer dropped that. They dropped this legal challenge to the ICC, okay, over its jurisdiction. It doesn't mean anything because they're still giving weapons to Israel, so they're still supporting the genocide. As David Miller Professor Miller correctly puts it, it's empty posturing. But nevertheless, the Israelis don't take it that way. Anything short of absolute total subordination is considered treacherous and anti-Semitism, and they'll come up with a million names and ways to describe it. But basically, Zionists cannot tolerate this. Even if it's empty posturing, it's still against their interests and their image. They'll punish you for it. So they want to punish the average British citizen for protesting against genocide. They want to punish the empty, garbage position of the Labour government. And finally, this is to make an example out of England for other European countries and other Western countries. If you keep on opening your mouths about what we're doing in Gaza, if you try to subvert us, even in, just rhetorically or in an empty manner, we'll come after you. We will turn your country upside down. We will burn it to the ground. Now, I need to remind you something, that the Israelis lie about everything. The Israelis are committing a genocide. If you're committing a genocide, does a pogrom seem that far-fetched? Does a pogrom seem far-fetched for someone who commits genocide? Of course not. They're one and the same. They go together. They go hand in hand, right? Someone who commits genocide is absolutely capable of committing a pogrom. This is not a big deal. It takes far less resources. It's undercover. It's done, indirectly. But nevertheless, we can see all the breadcrumbs. This guy is very clearly a Zionist asset. He's proudly taken a photo with the IDF. What more do you need? They're bankrolling him. What more do you need? Okay, and even if he wasn't, this behavior is utterly disgusting, and it only benefits the Israelis. It only benefits the Israelis. So this is really something that is that needs to be looked into. And Loki also here posted how the English Defense League, okay, so basically they changed it to English and Jewish Defense League. Okay, if you look at the company registers, you'll find that they're the same thing. And you should note that the Jewish Defense League is prescribed as a terrorist organization in the United States, right? That's what's so ironic about all of this. And I'll remind you of something else, because not only is this man a hypocrite, he is also, and not just him, I'm talking about all of these people in the streets, these hooligans, these thugs, these delinquents, these racists, these, people that are coming out and thinking that violence is acceptable. They constantly talk about immigrants as not respecting the law, right? Well, how come he fled the country? Again, just to make this absolutely clear, okay? This man, the Zionist asset that we're talking about, okay? Yaxley Lennon, right? Tommy Robinson, Paul Harris, whatever his name is. He fled the United Kingdom just a few days ago. He was supposed to go to court for contempt of court because the court told him a few years ago not to show a film where he lied about a Syrian refugee, and he went and broadcast it anyway. So the court said you have to come in and, we're charging you with contempt of court. He fled the country. He left via the Eurotunnel. This is just a few days ago. How can someone call themselves an English patriot and they have such disregard and contempt for the law, for the organs, the judicial system of the country? Explain that one to me. Explain it. I understand to describe it as unfair and so on, but to flee the country, I mean, unless you're persecuted, which is something entirely, but this man is not. And what's ironic is that you have to note the cooperation of the state. So forget why he fled or the fact that he fled. I'm going to show you the state's role in this. There's a judge that issued an arrest warrant for him. Okay, and I was reading through this and I recognized the name of the judge because I've been covering the Assange case for a couple of years. Right? It's the same judge, Justice Johnson. I immediately recognized the name. And the funny thing is, the arrest warrant is not active. So he issued an arrest warrant, but it doesn't come into effect until October. Have you ever heard of such a thing? There's a warrant out for someone's arrest, but it's not in effect for a couple of months. What kind of an arrest warrant is that? So I find this incredible for several reasons. Because if you look at Julian Assange is a journalist. He didn't incite riots in the country. He didn't, say racist things or publish racist things or lie about people. He is an upstanding citizen, an Australian citizen in the UK, residing peacefully, doing his job as a journalist, speaking truth to power. They wouldn't allow him bail. His health was failing. They wouldn't allow him bail. They wouldn't allow him house arrest. No mercy whatsoever. Never. I mean, leaving the country on top of it. That's amazing. That is amazing. Can you imagine that? Assange was literally politically persecuted. He applied for asylum and they demonized him, and they still demonize him. Oh, you're running away from justice. I'm sorry, man, when a foreign country is giving you political asylum, there's some substance to it. It's not made up. Okay? So he did it by the book with the law, and they still treated him like he's a criminal. This guy literally flees the country on the eve of his court date, runs away after inciting riots. The judges just give him an inactive arrest warrant. That's amazing. And I'll tell you another thing also. I'll tell you something else. What's also funny is that while he was trying to leave the country, they tried to search him. He refused, and then they arrested him under the Counterterrorism Act, which again, I'm against the Counterterrorism Act. We all know what it is. I've talked about it before. It's authoritarian and archaic. But nevertheless, they arrested him. So they obviously saw that he has a court date the next day, and he gets bail and then leaves the country. So just in conclusion, he's given bail, he's allowed to leave the country, he's issued an arrest warrant that is inactive. I mean, how can you look at that and not call that preferential treatment? How can you look at that, given this guy's behavior and who he is, and not suspect that there is some foul play, some foul crap going on here? I sense that the Israelis pressured the British government to let this guy flee. That's just my sentiment. It's just conjecture. I'm just speculating. It's not like we need any more things to show that he's an Israeli asset. We already know he is. He very clearly is, right? The photo speaks for itself. But and he speaks for himself. His language is pure Israeli, pure Zionist. So, you know, these people are scum. I mean, these people are utter, absolute scum. Okay? And Keir Starmer is equally responsible, because when Keir Starmer was absent, the Home Secretary was absent, the police, the army were absent. It's because of Keir Starmer sending them off, you know, distracting them with genocide in Gaza. Go and support the Israeli war effort. You know, let riots happen in England. Whatever. Let's not send the army. Let's not send the police. Just let the riots happen. Even if, you know, mosques or hotels are burnt down. And the same thing can be said of Rishi Sunak and Priti Patel and Suella Braverman and all these politicians before, because for years they've been demonizing people that are brown, people that are Muslim, people that are Asian, immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, you name it. Even though Suella Braverman, Priti Patel and Rishi Sunak themselves are children of immigrants, right? They are themselves children of immigrants. And yet they demonize immigrants. Keir Starmer, what did he say recently? He's saying, you know, he's talking about sending people from Bangladesh back to Bangladesh. I mean, this is... It's extraordinarily racist, right? And these people, they call themselves, you know, British patriots. I'm sorry, the United Kingdom cannot be in the United Nations and call itself a civilized country and you know, be a signatory, as a matter of fact, an author of the Refugee Convention, and then treat refugees who are victims of British foreign policy like this. You know, being so people are fleeing bombs, British bombs. They come for, you know, they flee to Britain for safety, and then we try to burn them down again. I mean, what kind of decadent, uncivilized barbarism is this? Don't come to me and talk about, you know, illegal immigrants destroying the country when you yourself are going out and destroying the country, behaving like a hooligan, behaving like some, you know, decadent thug, and pulverizing your own community. Don't talk to me about the country has been taken over. It has been taken over by Zionists, by people like this, okay? By Zionists. You're right. In that sense, it has been taken over by the Israelis and their agents like Stephen Yaxley Lennon, Tommy Robinson, Paul Harris, whatever his name is, okay? You know, you're going to come here and talk about asylum seekers taking up money and space and resources. I'm sorry, there's far more money being spent on bombs and wars, okay, and sanctions, which created the refugees in the first place. The same people that are saying, oh, we have to take things into our own hands now, which is basically, they're basically saying, I can behave like a vigilante. You know, I'm going to take the law into my own hands. I'm going to burn people down. I'm going to, you know, attack them. I'm just going to do what I want. I'm going to be a thug. These people then turn around and call Palestinians terrorists when they fight against Israeli colonizers. The difference is that looting and hooliganism and attempted murder are illegal, whereas Palestinian armed struggle is absolutely and perfectly legal. So who's the terrorist? Okay, who is the terrorist? Again, you want to talk about illegal immigrants? This guy literally entered the United States with a fake passport. I mean, the hypocrisy is rank. No one is more illegal than American troops on foreign soil. No one is more illegal than British spy planes buzzing over Gaza or French troops occupying Africa. Okay? Those people you're calling immigrants are refugees. They're running away from our mess. We bombed their homes. We killed their friends. We killed their families. We left them jobless. We destroyed their economies. We destroyed them with sanctions. We looted and robbed their resources for centuries. Thieving to the point they can't recover and stand up on their own 2 feet. We kept drilling this into their heads, how the white man is so much better. And now that they want to come over and take a look and see where their money went, you put up a wall? If only there was a wall to stop your thieving ass 300 years ago. If only. You know, the same people whining about migrants, they want Arabs to tolerate Israeli invaders. These are people with weapons, with tanks, with nuclear bombs. And they encourage British Jews or European Jews to leave the country because they're so anti-Semitic. They want them to just leave the country and go to Palestine and emigrate on top of somebody else's land. And give them bombs too. Christ, I mean, double standard is really, you know, is really an understatement. You want to stop people from exercising their right under international law to seek asylum? Fine, but don't turn around then and lecture the world about human rights the next morning, all right? And don't talk to me about securing our borders. Our borders are perfectly fine. We have nuclear weapons. We have one of the best navies in the world. It's Arab borders that need securing from us, okay? It's African borders that need securing from the West. The top 3 countries that produce refugees are Ukraine, Syria, and Afghanistan. All of these countries have one thing in common. They've been bombed and destroyed by NATO. All right. The West invaded and destroyed these countries. How bizarre that Tommy Robinson / Stephen Yaxley Lennon / Paul Harris / Israeli Zionist name won't mention any of this. The far right in France, in Britain, in America won't mention sanctions bombs that create the refugees that they keep whining about so much. If you're so worried about foreigners coming to the country, then stop bombing people, stop stealing their resources, stop being an imperialist little shit, and mind your business, all right? Otherwise, you can fuck off and shut your damn mouth. And thank your lucky stars, by the way, that these refugees you demonize so much are innocent, decent human beings who aren't vengeful little gobshites like yourself. So, absolutely, they are going to try and clamp down on people's freedom of speech. But again, make no mistake that, you know, what we saw in the last couple of days were racist pogroms. And the irony here is that they were claiming for months that, oh my God, these people who are protesting against genocide, how dare they? And peacefully marching, these are hate marchers. They're supporting terrorism. They're anti-Semites. And then when you look at this behavior, who is supporting terrorism? Who is acting out terrorism? I mean, when you're attacking the police with bricks, with bottles, when you're trying to burn down refugees who have already escaped British bombs and American bombs overseas, only to come to England and then try, you know, be attacked again. Even one person who used to work counterterrorism went on the BBC and said this is crossing the line into terrorism. Now, again, I don't trust the motives of the security state of MI5 and MI6 because they want any excuse just to clamp down on people's freedom, but they were doing that anyway. Months ago, they said, oh my God, people who say anything good about the resistance are terrorists. You know, so they've been doing this for a long time. It's not the far right are not victims. On the contrary, it's the far right that is in government. Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, are far right. The Conservatives are far right. You know, Democrats, Republicans are far right. They, you know, check every single box. They make all sorts of remarks, derogatory remarks about people protesting for Palestine. But when you look at how the people behaved in the last couple of days of these pogroms, they embody all of these smears and slurs, you know, about being violent and being hateful and being racist. I mean, what is that? Did you see anyone trying to burn down a synagogue during the last months? Did you see people walking up to someone who is clearly Jewish and then beating them up because they're Jewish? No one has done that. No one in the pro-Palestine camp would dream of even doing that, and yet they were smeared by the media. And when we see black people, Asians, Muslims, Arabs being, you know, almost lynched in the street, or call it whatever you want, punched, scuffled, I really don't care. They were attacked. When we see this behavior happening, the media call it, you know, anti-immigration protests or unrest. Jesus, I mean, come on. What a double standard, really. What a double standard. So anyway, I just thought I'd point out this hypocrisy. Again, you see this projection. It's such a core feature of Zionism, projecting your own behavior on others, accusing other people of what you're doing. You know, so like Tommy Robinson, he talks about illegal immigrants, and he was convicted of entering the United States illegally with a fake passport and went to prison. He talks about immigrants, and then he goes and lives in Spain as an immigrant. He claims other people are less English than him, and then he changes his Irish surname to sound more English. And we actually don't know what his real name is. Even the judge in the United States was confused because he has like 5-6 different names. You know, he talks about, the EU is bad, we have to leave, you know, Brexit is good, and then he leaves and goes and lives in the European Union. Well, why are you living in the European Union if you hate it so much? Which one is it? I know you can, you know, support British, so Britain leaving the European Union and still live in the EU. I know, but still, everything he does is hypocritical, so I'm going to point it out because it is. And then, you know, he talks about being a British patriot, and he runs away from the court. Why are you running away from a hallmark of British achievements, which is, you know, a parliamentary, a constitutional monarchy with democratic institutions like the independent judiciary? Why are you running away from the law? You say immigrants break the law, and then you and your friends and your followers behave like scumbags and delinquents and burn things down. I mean, Jesus Christ. You know, again, talk about hypocrisy. He calls refugees and asylum seekers who are in England legally. Again, the United Kingdom is a signatory of the Refugee Convention. It is a human right to apply for asylum. It's legal. It's completely legal. Okay? Every human being has this right. He calls refugees illegal and he calls them invaders, and then he goes and takes photographs with the Israeli army, which has invaded and occupies 3 countries, and has killed more British subjects in a terrorist attack than anyone in history. The Haganah, which is what is today the IDF, carried out the King David Hotel bombing. They killed 91 people. Deadliest terrorist attack against British subjects, and he goes and glorifies them and defends Israel, and does interviews on Israeli TV and speaks like Israelis, and conveys their talking points. This guy is an asset. He's a Zionist asset. He strikes me as an intelligence asset, but minus the intelligent bit. His cover certainly seems to be blown. It's not that well veiled to begin with, is it? So whatever his name is, Stephen, Yaxley, Lennon, Paul Harris, I don't give a crap. The immense hypocrisy, which, as I said, is a core feature of Zionism. The telltale signs are all there. It's all visible. It's all clear. Again, YouTube demonetized my channel because I'm not allowed to say naughty things about Israel. Telling the truth is forbidden. So if you are able to donate a few dollars on PayPal or on a monthly basis on Patreon, please consider doing it, because it would really help me continue my journalism and support independent media. So I'd be very grateful. And the links are in the description and also in the chat. Thank you guys very much again for all your donations and all your kind comments. I appreciate it very much.